Well, good morning, folks. My name is meteorologist Tim Ayler, and we've just going into probably the biggest day for severe weather today. Over the same areas we had severe weather yesterday. We also got potential for, it's already ongoing, snow out here in the Colorado and Wyoming, Utah, even New Mexico this morning, right? And so in today's forecast, we're going to go over the severe weather and talk about first the overall severe outlook, except the rainfall outlook here, and timing for today. Okay, and also if there's time, talk about the future here. And you can see towards the end of this run, okay, we have this trough remaining out to the west here, and like you go through all this. This is 48 hours HRRR. The main trough axis just to the north here. Storms on the southern side of this. You can see down here in Florida what looks like a upper low mid-level feature spinning out here. I want to take a look at that if I have time also. But going into this week, this trough is going to hang back here and potentially bring some heavy rain back to western Texas as well. Okay, so quite a lot to talk about today, so let's get started. So let's get started with today's severe weather outlook. We still, as of this morning, have a moderate risk of severe weather here in the central part of the U.S. here. Let's zoom in a little bit. The moderate risk covers the Salina, Kansas area, Wichita, Emporia, up towards Maryville, Iowa, right towards the southeastern part of Nebraska. Okay, a larger 30% level, 3 out of 5, covering generally from northeast of Oklahoma City through the same areas here in eastern Kansas, through Kansas City, Kirksville, Missouri, up towards Waterloo, Iowa, and back towards just to the east of Grand Island. And a larger slate risk going all the way up to northern Michigan, parts of Wisconsin, and all the way down to just to the northwest of Dallas. Okay, and a larger marginal risk you see in the light green here surrounding it. General thunderstorms otherwise. The marginal risk also does go up along the Great Lakes here, up in the New York State, parts of Pennsylvania, and another marginal risk up here into parts of east central Pennsylvania and Maryland, West Virginia here as well, and parts of Virginia also. So quite a large area today. Of course, the forecast is focused on this moderate risk area today. Now let's look at the tornado risk for today. They're still maintaining a SIG-2 hatching here, generally the center portion of this area, the 15% chance of tornadoes exceeding EF2, reasonable expectation, max intensity, right? So you have that SIG-2, you see that circle there, right? Pretty much from south central Kansas all the way up to Maryville, Iowa. All right, that's your 15% risk. The 15% risk does extend a little bit outside of the SIG-2, and this other circle here is SIG-1, which is, sorry, let me step back. SIG-2 is EF3, reasonable max intensity, okay? Sorry about that. SIG-1 is EF2, all right? So even now I get it confused sometimes. A larger area here in the marginal, 5% risk here for tornadoes as well, all the way down to Abilene, Texas also. So quite a wide area here with tornado potential, focused in some of the same areas that we had it yesterday. So very impactful past few days. There was a very strong tornado we saw on video yesterday that impacted some open spaces. Luckily, I don't think it hurt anybody. Maybe some structures yesterday. So that was pretty intense watching that on the TV yesterday. Now, the hail risk. Pretty crazy stuff here. Okay. We got the SIG-1 hatching for hail. It goes all the way up into the center here, the 45% chance of hail within 25 miles of a given location. Reasonable max intensity is SIG-2, which is 3.5 inches or greater in diameter. And then you have the 30% chance, which encompasses some of the SIG 2 hatching and some of the SIG 1. So in the outside portion of the SIG 1 hatching, you can have up to 2-inch hail or bigger. Anywhere outside of that, 15% and 5% risk here, you still can have some large hail, okay? So going back, tornado, hail, you see the tornado and hail risk isn't really encompassing this eastern mode, right? Wind risk, okay? Now, got the wind risk is a little bit different here because the SIG 1 hatching denotes, which is here, denotes a reasonable max wind gusts of 75 miles per hour or greater, hurricane force, right? So very destructive. We had some very destructive winds yesterday. So you have your 30% chance going all the way up from northern Wisconsin all the way down to parts of northern Oklahoma. But the SIG 1 hatching goes all the way down to northern Texas here. So less coverage, but maybe some intense downdrafts, winds here into Texas. Otherwise, you have up to 60 mile per hour wind gusts with low probabilities over to the east here. All right. I would appreciate y'all giving me some feedback on this program I'm using because I spent a lot of time learning this. This is broadcast quality program, really nice graphics. I really enjoy using it and appreciate the feedback. So let's switch to day 2 here, which is tomorrow. We zoom out. One of the challenges with this product is it doesn't use the mouse like the other radar products does. So I'm having to get used to the zoom in and out here. So as you can see for tomorrow's risk, we have a large slight risk here, spanning all the way from southern Texas through Arkansas, Oklahoma, Missouri, Illinois, Indiana, Ohio, Michigan, New York State, all the way up into Maine here almost, right? Larger marginal risk here surrounding it. Now, if we look at the categorical risk, that's, you see a thunderstorm and other risks here. Just the general 15% outline here, right? Tornado risk, not a big tornado risk in the southern mode of this. Now, they may change, but I think that's because a short wave is moving through the northern part of this, which is kind of interesting given how far north this is. So 2% risk of a tornado up here, northern Maine, wow, Vermont, New York, crazy stuff. Michigan, wow, okay. Hail, of course, the hail risk is maximized down here in the southern mode, likely on the dry line and points to the east here, with potential for 2-inch hail or greater in diameter with a 15% risk down the southern portion of this up towards central Oklahoma. And we have a large wind risk that pretty much encompasses the whole severe outlook for tomorrow, right? All the way up from northern Maine, all the way down to Texas, 15% within this quarter here. Likely a cold front is starting to push to the south and east here, and that's what's driving the severe weather threat for tomorrow. So going into Tuesday, we maintain a severe threat here, although it's marginal at this point. Down here in western Texas, right? And I think this is going to be in the same area where we got a flooding risk, and we'll go over that next. But general thunderstorms otherwise, but marginal risk down here towards Lubbock, in the southern portions of Texas and western towards Roswell. All right, and up in the northern portion of this, parts of Virginia, Maryland, Delaware, New Jersey, Pennsylvania, Connecticut, Massachusetts, Rhode Island. You can see that here. Quite a wide area of thunderstorms as well, with some thunderstorms possible here into southern Florida also. Okay. And that's it for the severe weather outlook for the next 3 days. So to start with this morning, you can see the main trough at 500 millibars is back here, right? So we always try to look at the mid-levels, at least I like to get an indication of the state of the atmosphere, right? And looks like maybe some convectively enhanced flow here, but maybe a short wave moving through the flow here. You see the backside of this trough is still starting to swing through, right? This way, with a belt of stronger flow here, some stronger flow here, and stronger flow here as well with a little bit of a dip here, right? So And we showed the radar a few minutes ago with a lot of ongoing convection, hail, flooding concerns. With this broad southerly flow here, heavy rainfall is going to be a distinct possibility as well. So now let's move this through time and see what happens with this trough here. 6, 7 Eastern. All right. Now you have some enhanced flow moving over the area of interest for severe weather, right? So if we bring back up the severe weather outlook for today, see what our severe weather outlook is, and here's our belt of stronger flow. You see how it's displaced just to the east here, right? And we'll have to see just to the west, excuse me. But this is still working out the bugs here. 4 p.m. Eastern, 3 p.m. Central. All right. Now let's overlay the reflectivity on here and take the 500 millibar flow. You can see a lot of ongoing convection to the east here, all the way. I know it's kind of a busy map, all the way up into parts of the Midwest here, down along the Gulf states, and on the northern edge of this, and the belt of stronger flow here, with heavy precip ongoing in Colorado and Wyoming and parts of Washington State, Oregon here. All right, let's take the severe product off for today and the 500 millibar flow off as well. It's going to take a minute. Sorry, guys. All right, so remember our area of interest was here in central Kansas. All right, storms firing up here with this heavy snow ongoing. It shows you that. And some heavy precip on the northern edge of this, and a pretty strong line of storms moving through the Midwest. And again, zooming in here, some storms may be firing the higher terrain out here as well in West Virginia, Maryland, okay? Some storms up here in northern Maine as well. So quite a lot going on today. And maybe some storms starting to fire on the southern edge of this and into Florida again, okay? Let's go back to our area of interest here, 4 p.m., 5 p.m. See, this mode is kind of not really supercellular to start with. Maybe to begin with, we get some individual cells here. Pretty incredible stuff going on out here either. Right in the Denver area, they may actually get some snow. Anyway, lots of intense convection to the east as well. Missouri, Kentucky, Fort Wayne, Indiana, up to the Midwest, Wisconsin. So you know that's why the severe threat what it is today. Okay, zoom out a little bit. Now moving on, the storms quickly congeal into a line here. Okay, with maybe some storms down here in the Mississippi, and these storms continue here as well. Maybe some storms along the Florida coast. All right, so shifting our focus back to this area here. Pretty intense looking storms here. This is 7 p.m., right? Move to develop into this line. And once it maybe develop some more on the backside of this into Nebraska, pretty intense line of storms with maybe some multicellular type convection within this line. Okay. Moving to the south and east in the overnight hours again through Kansas City and down towards parts of Texas as well. Now zooming out a little bit, we go to the northern mode of this. Different spots of convection here in these different areas. With the Kentucky, that line is kind of dissipating here some. And that snow that was ongoing here is moving up to the north as that system moves out. Heavy snow potential up here in Canada. Maybe some convection up here in northern Maine as well. All right, and we're talking 2 o'clock in the morning Eastern, 1 a.m. Storms rumbling through this area. A quite intense line, maybe an MCS, MCV. Looks like it starts to stretch out here. And we move into the afternoon hours on the 19th, which is tomorrow. See why the threat is what it is into tomorrow, 5 p.m. All right, go back to the Storm Prediction Center outlook for day 2. There we go. So pretty stretched out line of storms here, right? Storms can be firing anywhere in this line, and then that's the end of this model run. So maybe some pretty intense storms back here as well, and you see some storms again maybe firing up here into Colorado in the overnight hours as well in the higher terrain. Okay. And some beneficial rain probably down here into Florida. So quite a lot going on today and tomorrow. So wow, pretty incredible stuff, guys. One more thing up here in Montana, see maybe some isolated large hail, things like that up here into Montana as well into tomorrow. So a lot going on here. So I like to do this every day, go over the StormNet probabilities because this visually represents the probabilities of tornado, hail, and wind risk. It doesn't delineate strong versus weak tornadoes, just EF1 or greater here. So generally in the afternoon hours, in the morning hours, you have some tornado potential here just south of Chicago into parts of Missouri as that line of storms moves through this morning, right? Although not zero, quite low, then ramping up in the afternoon hours here, generally to the northwest of Topeka, Wichita, parts of a small area of southern Missouri, Detroit, Indiana has some potential there, but small, less than 10%. So the high percentage here is in the into Kansas and Nebraska today. So that stretches out here in the overnight hours and moves through Kansas City with a less than 25%, generally 10 to 25% risk, span of all the way from just to the north of northern Oklahoma, all the way up to Clare, Michigan here. And then we get into the overnight hours into the morning, that moves into Missouri. Not a zero risk here at all, okay? So that's the hail risk for today, tornado risk for today, excuse me. Let's back this up. Wind risk. So starting off this morning, 7, 8 a.m. See that line of storm moving through Chicago this morning. And really wants to pick up with this MCS type feature moving through Fort Wayne, Indiana this afternoon. Pretty high probabilities here, some intense wind gusts, right? And it starts ramping up here in the afternoon in central Kansas, parts of Colorado, even into this area where we got the severe outlook for today for the mid-Atlantic, although not that high probabilities, right? Now the wind gusts really ramp up pretty much in the same area in Kansas, Nebraska, Iowa, and back towards Missouri here, and continue in the mid-Atlantic, and maybe points in the south, just little areas here. But the highest probabilities here in Kansas, Nebraska, and Iowa, right? Maybe another feature developing here on the eastern mid-Atlantic, into parts of Kentucky as well. There's some probabilities continuing in overnight hours, and some higher probabilities again into Missouri. And this really, the line wants to re-intensify here in Missouri to Oklahoma, back towards even Lubbock, Texas, as we get a little bit further on here, right, in the morning hours. Now backing this up, let's go to the hail risk. Hail risk greater than 1 inch here. This is this morning. See, the greatest hail risk is a little further south here, stretched out in central Kansas, southeastern Nebraska, southwestern Iowa here, and a small potential in mid-Atlantic all the way down to Texas and surrounding areas. So the probabilities don't seem as great as I would have thought I would see today. So now let's go into tomorrow. The hail threat kind of moves out into tomorrow. So the hail threat gets stretched out in the morning hours and relegated to the southern mode of this pretty much here tomorrow evening in the parts of southern Texas. The probabilities aren't zero all the way up in the northeast here, mid-Atlantic, through the Mississippi Valley here, part of the Ohio Valley, okay? And we'll go this through midnight. And you see down here in southern Texas, we get this bullseye in the overnight hours, likely due to this being a 12-hour period now, 8 p.m. to 8 a.m. So on Tuesday. Now let's move back a little bit here and look at the tornado risk for tomorrow. This is overnight hours starting Tuesday, right? Tornado risk moves to the south and east, kind of gets stretched out here. There's a low tornado risk in the evening hours down into Texas, maybe up here in the northern U.S., and a small thing in here in Arkansas as well. But tornado risk doesn't look that high at this point. It does seem to ramp up a little bit more here along the Gulf Coast, along in this 12-hour period between 8 p.m. and a.m. here in southern Texas, Louisiana. So not expecting a big threat for tornadoes tomorrow. All right, so going to wind risk here for tomorrow. Wind risk moves to the south and east, 2 p.m., 3 p.m. See the highest probabilities for winds exceeding 60 miles per hour roughly in the southern mode of this, centered in Arkansas, Kentucky, Pennsylvania, and parts of Massachusetts and New England. Different convective clusters moving through the flow here. 7 p.m. to 8 p.m. You see one in southern Texas, Louisiana, Tennessee, Missouri, and the Kentucky, West Virginia, Ohio, Pennsylvania, Jersey, and Pennsylvania once again, Eastern PA, and the Boston area. Okay, so quite a lot of different areas here, and the highest wind risk down towards San Antonio during the 12-hour period from 8 p.m. to 8 a.m. on the 19th and 20th. So yeah, there's quite a bit going on here, and the potential does exist for, especially down the southern mode of this, for some significant hail and high winds here tomorrow. See the hail risk down here as well, like we talked about, and a large area hail otherwise, right? Just 1-inch hail, 2-inch hail in the southern mode of this. And see how that moves through as well once again. And thankfully, we'll be done with the severe risk, at least major severe, for a few days. Be finally time to talk about something else, hopefully for a few days after that. That's all I got for today, guys. Appreciate y'all watching. Had a lot going on to talk about today. I'm sorry we keep talking about severe weather, but that's what's in these, in people's minds, right? Once we clear this last severe weather event for today, well, last one, for the most impactful, right? We'll be able to talk about some other stuff. I'll be posting shorts and other things in the, as I go along throughout the day, or in the morning, about different threats that may be occurring in the continental U.S. As always, appreciate y'all watching. Love y'all. Have a great day. God bless.